I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Ross Kay from Ross Kay Realty Consultants. Welcome to the show, Ross.
Thanks, Jim. Hope your weather out there is as nice as it is in Ontario today.
It was 30 degrees and sunny in Burnaby.
We're only about, I think we're about 17 today, but it is sunny.
Ross, the BC Real Estate Council is investigating conditions of sales and some of the practices that are being carried on. Do you have any confidence that their investigation will result in anything real?
Confidence, no. No disrespect, I don't mean it's confidence. I mean, it's just a statement of fact. They've already released their interim report, where they listed 10 items that they thought, were areas that they could target. This is the advisory group who's overseeing the matter. Of course, the Real Estate Council of BC immediately issued a response saying, good. These things all sound good. Well, the reason they all sound good is because it's nothing new. They're simply going over the exact same things that the council already has had the ability to do, except by them reiterating existing powers and existing responsibilities. It now allows the Real Estate Council of British Columbia to start fulfilling those responsibilities as if it's a new undertaking. They're not going to be held accountable for their failures. I mean, and it is an absolute failure out your way, Jim. In Ontario here, it's happening the exact same thing with the Real Estate Council of Ontario. These people are not enforcing the rules and regulations. These are self-reporting regulations. In other words, if the consumer doesn't issue a complaint, nothing gets done. 100% of the responsibility to report falls on the consumer. Of course, there has not been an advertising campaign at any time in BC explaining things to the consumer and what they should be reporting. In other words, you're going to pay somebody $40,000 in commission. These are the responsibilities and obligations they have to fulfill. If they didn't do it and you want to get your commission back, file a complaint. That's what the Real Estate Council of British Columbia should have been doing. But of course they didn't. So they've got a list of 10 items. Additional enforcement tools for the council. Number one, they don't need additional enforcement tools. Use the ones you already have, limiting the ability of real estate licensees to represent both buyers and sellers in the same transaction. No, let them represent both buyers and sellers, except tell the homeowners and the home buyers what the real obligations are for a real estate licensee who's stupid enough to do that. Show them how you can get your commission back if the real estate licensee didn't follow the following steps. Cleared up overnight. Significantly increasing penalties for those who violate the Real Estate Services Act. You don't have to increase the penalties. Just start mandating and charging them and putting penalties in place. The first time a real estate brokerage, in other words, the place where the real estate licensee is working, the first time he gets fined or she gets fined, the entire brokerage will clean it up because the brokerage doesn't want to keep getting penalties from financial penalties from all of its licensees. So that's rendered irrelevant. Authorizing council to require disciplined real estate licensees to disgorge commissions and profits and above penalties received. No. Give the consumer instructions on how to take the realtor to civil court so that instead of the real estate council getting those disgorged commissions and profits, let the homeowners who got lied to keep them, simplifying the complaint process. Yes, run an advertising campaign so that people understand all you have to do is type out a form and hit enter. Ensuring that expectations for managing brokers and counsel's powers to hold managing brokers accountable are sufficient. They are more than sufficient. All they have to do is enforce the act. They shouldn't be sitting back in their chairs collecting payments while all the homeowners in British Columbia pay the price. The Real Estate Council of British Columbia is 100% to blame for this situation, examining business models such as unregulated ownership structures of brokerages. This has got to do with that one brokerage who's been caught where the owner of the brokerage actually doesn't have a real estate license. And he was telling the agents, the licensees at his office, he was caught in a meeting and on tape. I believe it was Kathy Tomlinson from the Globe who caught him, telling his agents to go ahead, get your sellers to undersell their properties, let us buy them, and then we'll flip them, and we'll make huge profits. Well, there's nothing wrong with that guy saying that. If his licensees are foolish enough to risk their reputation, their career, and charges, both civilly and criminally, then that's their problem. If the managing brokers of those offices who let this stuff go on, I don't care if they reported late, I don't care if they say, oh, we reported and nobody said anything. If you know someone's got a gun pointed at somebody else's head and you have the ability to remove that gun, you remove it. These brokers, managers, stayed there, collected a paycheck, and then after the fact said, oh, we didn't want it to happen, restructuring the portion of public and industry members on the council's governing body. Okay, so it's a self-regulated profession by law. So unless the provincial government is going to change the act, which will take, 2-3 years? I don't know how quickly they get things done out there. Or they're going to rush it and make a mistake in what changes they do make. You're not going to restructure the board. So the board can say, oh yeah, this is a great idea, because they know it's not going to happen. They also give this cloaked answer to reflect current best practices of governance. Anytime a homeowner hears the words, current best practices for governance, as it applies to real estate, they better lock up their money, they better put everything they have away, and they better make sure that someone is out there taking care of them. Because when you read current best practices for governance, that means someone who has no understanding of how the real estate industry actually operates is going to be the person overseeing the industry. The real estate industry is a very unique industry because it is a commissions-based profession. But is a commission-based profession where someone has a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 bill waved in front of them, and they're told, if you follow the rules, all the regulations, everything to the letter of what you're required to do through the legislation, you cannot have this money. But if you'll go 99.5% of the way there, you can have it. Someone who has not sold a house in 3 months, who's still going to go 99.5% accurate, being waved a check for $20,000, $30,000 in front of them, that is asking too much of human beings. You're asking too much. You're asking too much of people who simply go, take a real estate course, get a license, and are told to go out and sell houses without any training. It's too much. That's why when you hear the terms current best practice of governance, turn and run. Removing any deterrents that may prevent licensees from reporting misconduct. That is impossible because the only deterrent that exists from one licensee reporting misconduct of another is the fear of reciprocity. What I mean by that is, there is not a realtor, a licensee in the province of BC that I probably could not go out there today and find somewhere where there are breach of some rule or regulation that they're accountable to. The due diligence of the profession is just not at that level. So if Joe complains about Shirley, Joe's fear is that Shirley will then complain about Joe. It is impossible to remove that deterrent in a profession that is not as well regulating as it is. Ensuring that resources and services are easily accessible to the public and available in multiple languages. Someone coming from China who's purchasing a property as a foreign investor who may be laundering money does not need to know about the rules and regulations of the Real Estate Council of British Columbia. The average homeowner should have been educated years ago by the Real Estate Council of British Columbia, but it didn't happen. To say now that they need the resources and the services is absurd. It's too late. You've made mistakes. Someone at the Real Estate Council of British Columbia needs to be held accountable. Unfortunately, those in the advisory group do not possess the singular knowledge of the real estate industry that would allow that to happen. So even though you've got 3 lawyers on it, who all seem to be very competent and highly professional lawyers, they don't know what the code of ethics is for the Canadian Real Estate Association, the BC Real Estate Association, the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver. They don't know about the independent contractor agreements that the real estate licensee signs with his franchised broker owner that allows him to work there, and what are the exceptions or rules that he has to follow with that association. They don't have any understanding of the rules and regulations, the corporate bylaws of the Kelowna Real Estate Board, and how those bylaws dictate that monthly sales data has to be released in a certain manner so that the weakest members of the association aren't hurt when they're from their incompetency being exposed in that real estate data. You've got a chair of the association who has no idea about the real estate industry, and it would take her years and years of involvement to understand. So she can't resolve it. The commissioner of the council, she is a former worked for the TELUS Corporation. TELUS, and she's in this position. She was first appointed in January of 2013. She does not possess the entire knowledge base required to resolve this problem. You have a broker of record, an associate broker with Century 21 in the panel, someone who's been involved in governance at the real estate board level for years. She is not going to go out and say that Century 21 should quit releasing fraudulent housing market intelligence to the public, because that would expose her to all of her past clients that use that intelligence to make a home buying decision. The fellow from the Condominium Homeowners Association, he's not going to say anything that's going to risk his members. His members love assignments. If they can flip their condo for an extra $50,000, he better be quiet about it, and he better not suggest that they do anything otherwise. These are the problems that you have when a regulatory body of so-called experts, who on their own may hold unique qualities that are needed to be on a panel, attempt to oversee a profession or make any general statement. They do not have, there is not an individual member on that advisory council who is able to listen to what one of the members says and then transition that across the entire real estate industry. In other words, we shouldn't be doing double ends of a real estate deal. You should not do dual agency. Well, what dual agency really means is that no one in the brokerage should be representing a buyer and a seller in the same transaction. In BC, the Real Estate Council of British Columbia and through the pressure of the British Columbia Real Estate Board and all of the local real estate boards got the BC government to agree to what's called limited dual agency. Limited dual agency, if one of the lawyers on the panel were asked, they would explain it's impossible. There is no such thing as limited dual agency. Either you do dual agency or you don't. No realtor or brokerage should be allowed to participate in dual agency. So when I look at those 10 recommendations, there is not a single one that addresses the problem. The problem that they have in BC, as they do across Canada for organized real estate in every single province, is that real estate boards are not governed by the Real Estate Council of British Columbia. The employees of the real estate boards in British Columbia are not governed by the Real Estate Council of British Columbia. The real estate boards are structured specifically to get around that loophole. And that allows a Cameron Muir to make any nonsensical comment he wants about the housing market. A comment that is made to ensure the members of his real estate board continue to earn money as easily as possible, he is not able to be held accountable for that. The real estate board is not held accountable. RE/MAX, Sotheby's, Royal LePage, Century 21, Caldwell Banker, all of the real estate branding franchise corporations, none of them are real estate companies, and none of them are held accountable to the Real Estate Council of British Columbia. If the Real Estate Council of British Columbia really wanted to affect change, they would go out there and tell consumers, don't listen to RE/MAX Corporate. Don't listen to Phil Soper from Royal LePage. Don't listen to the guy from Sotheby's. Even though Sotheby's only had 133 listings at one time in Canada, as a company across Canada, don't listen to them. Don't listen to comments coming out of a real estate board, because they can say whatever they want. Only listen to the licensee. And whatever the licensee tells you, get it in writing, because anything a licensee says, they can be held accountable for.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after the break.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Unbelievable harmony, spectacular performance, the ultimate tribute to the Everly Brothers and Simon and Garfunkel. Bird Dog and the Vintage Electric Band coming to West Vancouver Friday, May 6th at the K-Meek Center. Buy online and save at ontourtickets.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking to Ross Kay. Ross, you suggested if homeowners wanted to get the attention of the BC government for real, just appeal your latest property assessment. What would happen then?
Yeah. Okay. So the average selling price that you hear in the news all the time, whether it's Kelowna, Vancouver, British Columbia, or Canada, it only represents less than 6% of the homes in the country. And the 6% of the homes in the country that it represents are the best 6% of homes in the country. Now, even in your local market, more so in Vancouver than Kelowna, but in Vancouver, the average selling price moves around the city. And right now, it's moved towards West Vancouver and Howe Sound, the places where the most expensive real estate in Vancouver is situated. That's where the average selling price moved to. In British Columbia, it moved to the exact same place. In Canada, March's sales numbers that were released last week, claiming the average sale price of a home in Canada was $508,000, which got reproduced across newspapers across the country as the average home in Canada is worth $508,000, is mainly because of those few extra houses that were selling in Howe Sound. So let me explain it to you this way. Since your property tax assessment is rooted on current market value, which is exactly what it shows you right on the BC Property Tax Assessment website, and it's included in all of their methodology. Because it's representing the best 6% of homes that exist only, that means 94% of the homes should not be subject to the same increase in property taxes. There is not a street in BC of houses built on the similar time. So let's say you're in a new subdivision in BC somewhere, and it is a 10-year-old subdivision. So the houses still, if you went outside, they still look relatively brand new. There will not be two homes on that street who have the same market value. But if you look at the property taxes, almost all of them have the exact same property taxes. The BC Property Tax Assessment has evaluated them at market value. They haven't gone in and said, hey, this house that's sold on that street, let's see, it had granite counters put in. They told out the carpets were 10 years old, so in order to sell it, they put all new hardwood in the house. It had 4 panels of glass that had frosted over from condensation. It had those all replaced. The driveway had already cracked, so they had it replaced. They had fenced in their backyard. They had put in upgraded appliances, all to make the home stage show quality. Everybody's heard about this staging phenomena that's out there, where you've got to stage your home so it looks its best to sell. Well, of course that's what you want to do. But 99 out of 100 homes are not staged. They're lived in. They would not reach that same market value. So what you've just said, Jim, is if people want to change the real estate industry, they want to change the myths and misrepresentations, they want to protect themselves from a house price correction, which is the biggest risk in Canada today. They want to make homes more affordable. Everybody should simply go to their property tax reassessment and get their property taxes reassessed. Because it is impossible for all the streets on the house to have their assessment go up the same as the 1 or 2 houses that sold. The 1 or 2 houses that sold should have had their property taxes actually jump ahead of what everybody else in the street is paying. And everybody else in the street, under the property tax assessment methodology, should have watched the actual property taxes they pay go down slightly. Because those 1 or 2 houses that sold are paying part of your property taxes now. You hear about these West Vancouver people who are living in a shack on a beautiful lot in West Vancouver, and all of a sudden their property taxes now are astronomical. They're being asked to pay these property taxes. Well, that's because the Property Tax Assessment Corporation is not doing their job properly. Unless you had a property tax assessor come through your property, I will guarantee you are paying too much in property taxes. Because the only houses that had a property tax assessor go through them were the houses that sold. And those assessors went through those properties by looking at them on the MLS and reading the MLS data for upgrades. That's how it happened. So if people want to see the power of the voter, see the power of the population, if they want to stop having their financial lives ruined by those seeking to take advantage of you, apply for a property tax reassessment. I would provide free of charge a methodology for people to go through so that they could go ahead and reapply for the property taxes. They wouldn't even need to hire me. I'll make this promise today. So rosskay.com, ROSSKAY.com. If I have 50 of your listeners come to my website and request me to put online free of charge a methodology to have your property tax reassessed, I will do so. No cost. I know the methodology for how the property taxes are done. I know the USPAP appraisal methodology. I know what constitutes a market value property. I know that 96% or 94% of the properties at the least, it's probably 95 or 96%, but 94% of the properties at least do not reach the market value of what houses are selling for. And I'll put that on the website. No charge. People can download it, do their own assessment. But I'm not going to do it if 50 of your listeners don't apply. They can go through the contact me slot on rosskay.com and we'll do that. Conversely, if you had enrolled in the Wealthy Homeowner Program, the wealthyhomeowner.ca, which is our consumer site, which all of our mountains of intelligence has resulted in, you can go ahead and just apply to become a wealthy homeowner on that site, and It's part of the program anyways. Every wealthy homeowner in Canada applies to get their property taxes reassessed. You apply because your property tax assessment in 94% of the cases will drop. That drop will carry forward for a minimum 5 years. If you save even $100 on your property taxes, that's $500 over 5 years. If you throw that into a TFSA and forget about it, for the next 40 years, you're going to wake up one morning and find, I think it's something like $10,000 in your bank, in your TFSA, tax-free. People who don't think $100 property tax overcharge is enough to bother with, better think about that money sitting in a TFSA for the next 40 years, because that's when you retire. And you could have had all of the cumulative interest that meager $100 saved you. What happens if you saved $1,000 a year on your property taxes? 5 years is $5,000. Multiply that by 1.047 for the next 40 years, and you're going to find out what that $5,000 savings is actually going to save you. That's the power of homeowners. Homeowners have the power, and what's happened is that the 11 million privately owned homes in Canada have never been told they have the power. 11 million privately owned homes in Canada at an average price. So when you get a truthful average price of what the average home is worth, so in all those houses added together, divided by 11 million, they're worth about $340,000 today. Do the math. It is staggering the financial power that homeowners have. I read today where Brookfield Property Services was bragging about I think it was a $7 billion investment release that they had. And they were bragging about getting $7 billion. My past clients who I sold houses to when I was a realtor, they're worth more than $7 billion. That's one guy. The city of Burlington, where I live, has 65,000 homeowners, and the average home in Burlington is legitimately worth around $600,000. Do the math. It is staggering the power that the homeowners have, except the banks, the realtors, the government don't want you to know the power you really have. And the next house price correction, some of that power will be taken away from you. Apply for a property tax reassessment. If your roof is older than 3 years old, apply for a reassessment. If you've lived in your house for 3 years and haven't replaced the carpets, apply for a reassessment. If you haven't replaced your kitchen in the last 7 years, apply for a reassessment. If your furnace is older than 6 years old, apply for a reassessment. Because all of those things, under the methodology for the BC Property Assessment Office, will allow you to pay lower property taxes.
Ross, thanks a lot for those great tips, and thanks for being on the show.
Thanks a lot, Jim. I really appreciate being asked.
My guest has been Ross Kay from Ross Kay Realty Consultants. His website's rosskay.com and rosskay.ca. You're listening to HoweStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at Talk Digital Net. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Comments or questions for the show can be sent to info@HoweStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on HoweStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HoweStreet.com radio is a production of HoweStreet Media Incorporated.